Hello and welcome back to Sacred Magick 101. I am Sammy. Today we're getting back on the topic of Ocean Magick as a sea witch. We're going to continue our lesson on gifts from the sea. American journalist Cynthia Barnett said, "Seashells were money before coin, jewelry before gems, art before canvas." So let's go ahead and get on into our lesson for today. So if you have ever visited the coastline, it is likely that you walked upon the shore, gathering up the prettiest seashells you could find. Perhaps you took a few favorites home with you, a souvenir of your time by the water's edge. Intuitively, we are drawn to these magical trinkets with their spiraling structures and otherworldly beauty. We long to hold them, put them in our ears, and treasure them in our collections. But what is it about seashells that enchants us so thoroughly? First, we need to understand the function of seashells and how they are created. Shells are the tough, calcified outer layer that protects the soft-bodied mollusks that live inside of them. Mollusks are invertebrates and are one of the largest and most primitive categories of creatures in the animal kingdom. They are responsible for contributing to the purity of the water they inhabit. The word mollusk comes from the Latin word for soft, which is an appropriate description for these fleshy creatures with their singular muscular foot. Every shell you find was once home to a mollusk, although not all mollusks have shells. Shells are formed by mollusks secreting layers of limy substance from their bodies. The layers build up and harden to produce their external support system. The mollusk will spend its entire existence building its shell. Think of each shell as the lifetime achievement of the creature who once lived inside it, absorbing the minerals of the ocean to craft a beautiful aquatic piece of architecture. Once the mollusk life cycle ends, the shell lingers on as an skeleton, empty of the creature that it once supported and protected. And this way, shells can be thought of as like bones, another memento of life and death rhythm. When you find a shell by the water, carefully check inside to be sure that there is no longer a small mollusk inhabiting it. It is somebody's home. You have to understand that. Humans have been fascinated by shells for centuries. These ancient creations of the ocean have been used spiritually in sacred rites and aesthetically as jewelry. There is evidence of our Neanderthal ancestors collecting seashells, possibly to be used in jewelry, according to Mrs. Barnett back in 2021. A hoard of shells with carefully positioned holes running through, discovered in a cave, indicates that they may have been stung on a cord to wear. In addition to adorning ourselves in shell regalia, they were once used as currency, with the cowrie shell considered more valuable than gold for a time. The history of cowrie currency can be pinpointed to Bengal during the 4th century. The monarchy was unreliable at producing money, so the locals improvised by using cowrie shells instead. Available in abundance from the Maldives, compact to carry and difficult to counterfeit, cowrie currency spread far and wide. Entwined with the mysterious qualities of the sea, shells have been linked to funerary rites as indicated by their dispersion in ancient tombs by the Romans. According to Heller 2015, this may have been inspired by the Greek myth of Tyrrhenus, son of Hercules and fearsome cannibal avoided by the locals. When one of Terran's men would pass away, a shelled trumpet was blown to indicate that they were conducting a funeral and it was safe for anyone in the vicinity to attend. The sounding of the trumpet shell was a message of truce and a signal for the sacred rites that were about to begin. Shells have links to rebirth as well as to death. The resemblance to the vulva that some shells bear, with their smooth pink openings, can represent the internal life source that delivers new souls into this realm. Spiritually, this speaks of the rebirth that follows initiation into previous unknown depths. The connection to spirituality is also present when we see shells used for prophecy and divination. Cowrie oracles are a sacred practice in Santeria, way of the saints tradition. Santeria merges Yoruba and Catholic belief systems, blending West African practices with those of Roman Catholicism. Known as the Diogon, this method of divination uses 16 cowrie shells and may only be performed by santeros or santeras according to González Whippler, 1994. Because the uninitiated practitioners may invite in negative forces. This is not the only superstition surrounding shells. According to Babant in 2014 in Buli, a village in the Southeast Asian island of Halmera, it is said that discovering a Nautilus shell with a living inhabitant inside is a sign that the finder is a witch. Coming across a seashell at the beach may feel lucky or magical, as if the ocean sent a message just for you. Seeing an oyster shell could be an omen of protection and transformation, whereas a limpet shell could be telling you to find support in your community. It is up to the individual to intuit the meaning from these sea oracles. If you find a spiral shell, hold it to your ear and listen to what the ocean whispers to you through those swirling cavities. As shells are the product of the sea, we have to come to view them as sharing the same symbolic elements we hold for the water: emotion, intuition, spirituality, fertility, and healing. They represent longevity and protection, owing to their ability to endure the tumultuous waters of the ocean without decay, providing a solid defense to the soft creature inside. The captivating spiral design of shells such as the Nautilus and the Queen Conch represent the spiral of expanding consciousness, of awareness that seeks never-ending growth. Within shells like the comb carefully cradle its inhabitants between two identical halves that take the appearance of the hearts when viewed from the side, hinting at the connection between clams and love. Ancient and strong, shells are a physical manifestation of the life source of the sea and can be much used to the craft of the sea witch. There are 5 categories of shells, so we are going to get on to those. First category is univalves. Univalve refers to a singular shell, which is often spiraling or coiled. Examples of this kind include abalone, conch, cowrie, limpet, and snail shells. Then we have bivalves. Bivalves refer to a shell in 2 halves which form a whole. These shell pairs are hinged together by the muscle of the mollusk. Examples of paired bivalve shells include cockle, clams, mussels, oysters, razor, and scallops. Then we have tusk shells. This is a tubular shell with a tapering end that resembles like an elephant's tusk. Then we have chitons. Layered chiton shells appear fairly flat, okay? But they are made up of 8 layers that allow the mollusk to roll up into a ball when it is in danger. Then we have cephalopods, okay? Now, unlike most mollusks, cephalopods don't have external shells, only with one exception, the nautilus. Okay, now examples of cephalopods include squid, octopus, and cuttlefish. Okay, now there is such thing as ethical collecting. Okay, it can be very tempting to gather up all the shells you find, especially if visiting the sea is something you can only do occasionally. However, you have to be careful about how you collect shells. The first thing to know is the legality of shell collection in your region. Some species are protected, so removal of any natural items from their marine habitat is not permitted in some areas. This sometimes applies to sand and pebbles as well, so you need to check your local laws. You may wonder what harm there could be in gathering shells long discarded by their gastropod inhabitants. But even empty shells provide value to the sea. Hermit crabs do not grow their own shell. Instead, they occupy the discarded shells of other sea creatures, in particular spiral shells. Even oyster shells, which wash up in abundance on the shore of Britain, should not be removed in excess. Composed largely of calcium, they actually help to alkalize the sea, maintaining a delicate balance. Only take what you need, and be sure to give an offering to the sea to express your appreciation. This could be small, organic item left by shore, or an act of service such as gathering up all the trash that others have left their litter on the shore. Now we're going to go over the different uses for shells in witchcraft, mainly in Ocean Magick. Okay. So, first and foremostly, let's go over number 1. Okay. Wind chimes made from drilled shells would make a beautiful adornment to your space. It brings in energy of the sea, making a sweet sound as they jingle together. These same wind chimes in certain areas are also used to help with winds, okay, as well as meditation and other things, okay. Offering bowls for water, candles, incense, or other small items you can also use shells for. Scallop shells can be used as a small serving plates in ritual meals. You can also grind shells to make protection powder. You can also make talismans or amulets, okay? They can be made by drilling or wire wrapping your shell to create a wearable piece of jewelry. Grids. Grids are important in Ocean Magick, okay? So position shells in a grid formation on your altar to support your manifestations, okay? Spell bags or jars. Select a shell based on its meaning to bring Ocean Magick into your spells. Meditation tool. Hold or place shells on your body during meditation to foster a connection to the water. Runes. Collect enough small shells to make yourself a set of runes for divination. There are a variety of runic systems covered in other videos that I have done and that I will be doing in the future. Okay. Hang shells in the home as a protection charm. You could even paint your shell with like a beautiful pattern or a sigil, and that can like enchant it further. Okay. A big one, divination with shells. Okay, this is known as contromancy. This is the art of interpreting the patterns of shells that have been cast onto the surface. It is an intuitive art that is discussed further in other videos that I will be doing in the near future. Okay. Hang a symmetrical shell from a string or a chain to create pendulum for dowsing. Roll up a small petition paper, put it inside a shell, then place that under your pillow for prophetic dreams. Place a shell or a picture of a shell on your altar to represent your current aspirations or manifestations. Whisper your intent into the opening of a spiral shell, or speak invocations that honor sea deities or the higher aspects of the sea. You could designate a special ritual shell for communicating with the sea. Now, those are just a few examples. There are many other things you can do with shells, and we will get further into that as we have more lessons, right? So as I'm uploading more of these videos, we will get in more all of that. Now, all shells can be thought of as like representing the protective, fertile, nurturing qualities of the ocean. Each shell can also be ascribed with its own symbolism. However, the meanings behind the interpretations provided are not set in stone. Okay? So, forging your own path as a sea witch is unique to you, right? So you need to get in touch with your personal gnosis to divine the meaning of a shell. Okay, I'm going to give you guys some interpretations. Okay, however, if these do not resonate with you as a practitioner, you need to literally, okay, get in touch with your personal gnosis. Okay, that way you can find your divine meaning of each shell. Okay, now the meanings I'm giving here are based partly on the behavior of the mollusk that inhabits the shell. Okay, partly on society's collectively ascribed symbolism, as well as partly on personal intuitions. Okay. However, you always listen to your instincts when deciphering messages from the ocean. Okay. When you see or hold a shell in your hand, focus on how it makes you feel and what it represents to you. Lift it to your ear and listen to what it whispers. And be sure to record your own flashes of insight in your Book of Tides. Okay? Now, for those of you that don't know what Book of Tides is, Book of Tides can be kind of like, I guess the best way to example it would be like, kind of like, every witch practitioner has their own little book of shadows or their book of grimoire, right? Their own grimoire. So that is what that can be best described as. Book of Tides is especially for sea witches. Okay? So, understanding the individual shell meanings can help you to select an appropriately symbolic shell in spell work, as well as being applied to your seashell divination readings. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys a list of shells, right? This is not a complete list. There are thousands of species of mollusks on this planet, okay? So I'm only focusing on the most common types, okay? So first on my list is abalone. So the abalone shell is striking, right? It is iridescent, has a pearly inlay. The abalone shell has a rich history of being used as currency, as well as in jewelry, apparel, and in ceremony. Now, it is said that the Tehua people of New Mexico offer children a drink from an abalone shell as an act of initiation. The Greeks named it Haliotis, meaning sea ear, and the Maori people of New Zealand used the shimmering inlay to create eyes and artwork. The abalone shell offers both beauty and functionality, making it a special gift to humanity, symbolic of balance and peace. Its jewel-like appearance lends to it like an association of prosperity, which is forfeited by its incredible strength. The strength makes abalone an emblem of protection, healing, and fortitude. The dazzling rainbow sheen inside its shell encourages spiritual growth and connection to our hidden creativity. The abalone can also represent a need to listen carefully or to desire to be heard. We associate this shell with strength, intuition, balance, as well as abundance. Next on my list is the clam shell. Okay. Now, the clam shell is sometimes confused with the cockle and the scallop shell. Okay. The clam shell is a bivalve with two symmetrical halves hinged at the center. Its exterior is smooth with horizontal lines and decorating the surface. The clam can hold itself securely shut, lending us the expression to clam up. It's almost like to remain silent, okay? Conversely, we also have the expression happy as a clam. Clams are a representative of balance and stability, knowing when to keep your secrets and when to speak up. Hold firmly to your beliefs if they have meaning to you. It is not necessary to convince others of your spiritual truth. Clams also represent partnerships of equality, both romantic and platonic. As with the cockle, the clam also appears as a heart when viewed from the side, lending it that Venus energy of love and beauty. The clam is strong and tough, with both halves contributing to the protection of its precious cargo. Working in unity, the clam is a symbol of communication and preservation of purity. It is associated with balance, communication, love, and protecting secrets. Next on my list, no surprise, is the cockle shell. This shell is a bivalve shell similar in appearance to the clamshell, but with raised vertical grooves ornately decorating its exterior. The cockle represents love, friendship, innocence, and platonic love. It is also related to protection due to its sturdiness and durability. The cockle speaks of nostalgia from the past, reminding us to see the best things, but not to be blinded by sentimentality. It can also represent children, whether that is the children in your life or a calling to connect with your inner child. We compare this shell to friendship, protection, love, and innocence. Okay, that is the representation of the cocoa shell. Next on my list is the conch. Okay, the conch shell is described as the trumpet of the sea by Greek poet Archilus. Okay, the conch can indeed be sounded as a trumpet if the tip is removed, and it also has been used ritualistically for centuries. In Peru, 20 polished and carved conch trumpets were found that were believed to be over 3,000 years old. Revered for its beauty, the conch is a symbol of love, communication, order, and leadership. It denotes a formality and structure. Blowing into the conch was a way of sending signals or signifying commencement. In the 1954 book Lord of Flies, the shipwrecked children used a conch shell as a symbol of authority. It is agreed that when one of them holds the shell, the rest are compelled to listen to what they have to say. The conch can be considered sacred and can be incorporated into rituals that connect you to the sea or the moon. The conch can be representative to diplomacy, of doing what is right for the majority and not for yourself. It symbolizes selfless leadership and a desire to bring harmony into the world. It is represented with communication, structure, leadership, and harmony. Next on my list is the conch shell. Referred to in antiquity as the glory of the seas, the conch shell was revered for its ornate markings. However, the beauty of this shell is equally matched by its deadliness. The conch is predatory and highly venomous, paralyzing its prey with a toxic dart that is poisonous enough to even kill humans. When the conch appears in the shell reading, it may be asking you if you are the predator or the prey. In a competitive environment, it isn't enough to show up. You have to use everything in your arsenal to make yourself seen. Be mindful that those around you are not trying to undermine or sabotage you while pretending to be your ally. If you feel threatened by a person in your environment, the conch shell can signify that the best course of defense may to be like freeze them out of your life. Take control of the situation by cutting ties rather than engaging in conflict and discourse. Symbolically, the conch can represent the concept that all that glitters is not gold. Things may appear enchanting and attractive, but it could be a thin veneer masking a malicious intent. Be cautious of anything that appears too good to be true. We represent this shell with competition, control, cutting ties, dangerous beauty. The next on my list, well, no surprise to any of you, is the cowrie shell. Now, the cowrie shell is steeped in history. The cowrie has been used in divination for many years by the people of Yoruba, West Africa. The shells are cast, and the amount of mouth-up shells are counted to interpret a meaning. It was once valued so highly it was used as currency by many different societies, notably in India, West Africa, South Asia, and the Pacific Islands. Safer and Gill claims that the cowrie has circulated as currency in more places in the world than a coin. The bulbous mouth surrounding the inward curving mouthpiece have lent this particular shell an association with the vulva, or yoni, as it is called in some spiritual practices. Symbolic of the feminine principle, it is connected with sexuality, fertility, abundance, and spirituality. It is also considered a lucky shell, driving away malignant forces, called the mouthpiece of the ocean, as it resembles a mouth. The cowrie also represents communication, particularly spiritual messages. If you are searching for guidance, open your eyes to oracles or signs in your environment. Make decisions from a place of wisdom, or seek advice from a trusted mentor. This shell represents prosperity, fertility, divination, and femininity. Next on my list is the limpet. The limpet clings tenaciously to surfaces found by the water, embedding itself and fusing onto stable rocks, right? It often gathers in groups, making it a representative of community and family. Its clinging nature makes it steadfast and determined. The limpet finds security in attaching itself to sturdy surfaces, which can be allegorical to our own relationship and dependency. Being part of a community can be incredibly nurturing and supportive. But it is important to be mindful of where the line lies between mutuality, beneficial relationships, and codependency. You can be part of something greater than yourself while still holding on to your individuality. The limpet warns us not to give up our personal powers to others or merge our identities with our friends, partners, or jobs. Never give up what makes you who you are, and don't sacrifice your ambitions for comfort. This shell represents community, family, tenacity, as well as endurance. Next on my list is the moon shell. The moon shell, with its voluminous round shape, bears a passing resemblance to the great lunar orb in our sky. This lends it the symbolism most commonly associated with the moon, that of going through phases or acting in rhythmic way, feminine mystery, lunacy, intuition, and the night. It can represent confusion and deception, stemming from not knowing the full picture. The appearance of the moon shell may lead you to question if something is being kept hidden from you. Alternatively, the moon may be a call to examine your rootness to see if they are balanced. We cannot permanently exist at our energetic peak because we need to rest. Be like the moon and don't feel that you have to shine your brightest all the time. Governing the night sky, the moon shell can symbolize dreams along with subconscious. See, now you have to see this as a sign to pay attention to what you dream, especially if you are carrying out any inner healing work. Dreams can be a clue to the inner workings of our mind, even if they are a little abstract. This shell may also be a confirmation that you should trust your intuition. Listen to your gut instincts, as they're like to protect and guide you. They're not there to be against you. This shell is represented with cycles, intuition, deception, as well as subconscious. The next one on my list is the mussel. Okay, so The mussel thrives in numerous watery locations, including rivers, the sea, as well as like brackish waters. Okay? This demonstrates an adaptable and flexible nature with a versatile streak that makes it easy for them to like acclimate to new situations. They are often found in groups. The shell of the mussel is asymmetrical, suggesting a unique aspect to their energy. They may have a fluid nature, but it is complemented by the ability to be authentic and individual. When the mussel appears in a reading, it may be an indication to take the path less traveled. Take a risk by doing the thing that you were unsure of, something a little unusual or even unorthodox. Trust that you will adapt to whatever new situation you find yourself in, because being out of your comfort zone helps you to grow. The mussel anchors itself in place by releasing threads. These thin threads look like tendrils branching out all around the shell and can be symbolic of our need to spread our own energy and make new connections. Sometimes solitude is needed, but the mussel encourages you to network, from friendships, have a new experiences, and reach out to those around you. Recognize the moments where human connection is what is needed and look for unity with others. Be mindful, though, not to have unrealistic expectations of others. People will come and go from your life, and these tendrils of connection are invitations, not shackles, by which to bind others to you. So this one is representing individuality, adaptability, risk-taking, and networking. The next on my list is the Nautilus. The Nautilus is often cited as an example of the Fibonacci sequence in action. Its spiraling beauty is a showcase of the mathematical perfection found in nature. The Nautilus shell encourages us to expand our consciousness and engage with the world outside of our personal bubble, pushing the boundaries of the familiar. This shell encourages meditation and expansion of the intellect. It symbolizes the quest for knowledge and to continue to maintain an open and compassionate mind. There is more to the world than what we see on the surface level. The Nautilus is a symbol of looking deeper and questioning the nature of our own reality. However, it can be a warning not to become isolated from others by being too withdrawn and aloof in your introspection. This one represents order, expansion, as well as higher consciousness. Next on my list is the oyster. Okay, so the oyster represents the transformation of raw materials into something beautiful, like the small piece of debris that is transmuted into a lustrous pearl. The oyster shows us to find the diamond in the rough. When faced with adversity, never forget to make time for beauty, because wonderful things can be born from the humblest of beginnings. The oyster has healing and protective properties and shows us that a rough outer exterior can conceal something precious, whether that's a gentle, poetic soul or a hidden talent. The truth will be found when you look inwards and delve beyond the surface. The oyster can also act as a caution against concealing your true nature or building a fortress around yourself. Sometimes you need to let people in and allow them to see your authentically real self. However, There are times when the fortress energy is needed, particularly when we need to assert our boundaries. It can also represent a period of transition or inner work. It can be a painful process, but the pearl that forms in the dark is symbolic of the harmony that we foster when we absorb the shadow self into the conscious self. This represents inner beauty, healing, protection, and introspection. Next on my list is the periwinkle. Okay? These tiny shells are commonly found in clusters by the shore. When exposed to extreme temperatures and rocky places, they retreat into themselves in the hope that their ball-like shape will allow them to roll back into the water. This can suggest that the periwinkle symbolizes the need to recognize when retreat is the most appropriate option rather than standing and fighting. There is no shame in acknowledging your limitations. Walk away so that you can reassess the situation. Call on the support that you need and make preparations, right? To try again when you are ready. Perhaps you are in a situation where you are the underdog or are outmatched in some way. The periwinkle is the reminder that David can beat Goliath, but unusual tactics are needed. Find an unexpected way to disarm your opponent because the familiar methods are not cut it. Okay? They're not going to cut it. The periwinkle may also symbolize that act of doing what you need to get by. Okay? Even if it is not what you want to do. There are moments in life where we are asked to put down groundwork before we are able to progress to the next stage. This small but mighty shell also indicates friendships and power in numbers. Magnificent things can be achieved when we work together in a team. This is representing retreat, unusual tactics, limitations, as well as friendships. Next on my list is the razor clam. The slender, ejonic shake of the razor clam allows it to burrow deeply into the earth faster than any person could dig. The shell resembles a razor blade, although unlike the sharp-bladed implement, the razor clam is extremely fragile. Symbolically, this can represent the use of glamours as like a form of protection, making ourselves appear outwardly fierce even when we feel vulnerable inside. Conversely, this shell reminds us not to make assumptions about people. An aloof and unfriendly person may in fact be chronically shy or anxious. Treat people with kindness and compassion because you can't know what they're going through. A need for retreat is also represented by the underground dwelling racer. There are times where we need to step away from a situation and replenish our souls in the comfort of solitude. This one is represented glamour magic, compassion, retreat, and vulnerability. Next on my list is the scallop. The iconic scallop is synonymous with the goddess Venus, Aphrodite, who was depicted by Botticelli emerging from the ocean on a giant scallop. This shell can be associated with the glamour of love, beauty, and sexuality. It serves as a reminder to make time for self-love, exploring what brings you joy, and replenishing yourself with healing energy before you give to others. The scallop can also be a signifier that we need to bring comfort and sensuality into our lives, indulging our physical senses and carving out a sacred space where we feel safe and secure. However, it can also be a reminder that it is sometimes necessary to step away from the security and comfort and familiarity in order to make progress. Scallop energy craves stability, but love of stability can also manifest as a stubborn nature. The scallop can represent our need to be adored and approved by others. Remember that authenticity is more important than the admiration of others. Be mindful not to let vanity cloud your judgment. This is represented with love, beauty, sexuality, as well as healing. Next on my list is the slipper shells. Okay? The slipper shell gets its name from the small platform on the inside that gives it the appearance of a shoe. The mollusk that inhabits the slipper shell is a hermaphroditic. It will change gender over the course of its lifetime, beginning as male and ending as female. The slipper symbolizes the need to embrace change. Resisting change can cause us to stagnate and cease to progress. It also symbolizes the beauty that comes from viewing things from another perspective. Allow your point of view to be challenged and reconsider what you think you know. Perhaps you will arrive at the same conclusion, but you will have gained a little bit more insight just by being willing to walk a mile in another person's shoes or slippers. Remember the words of Scott Fitzgerald, okay? That the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. This one is representing empathy, reflection, growth, as well as compassion. Next on my list is the spider conch. Okay? The spider conch is adorned with protruding spikes, which only appear on adult shells. Symbolically, these spikes can be viewed as claws that defend and guard anything we hold precious. This could be our loved ones, property, our personal beliefs, even. The spider conch is indicative, a feeling of wholeness and knowing yourself that comes with maturity in being sure enough of what you believe. You have no trouble standing up for yourself. A shell of protection, the spider conch may be a call to examine what you hold dear and defend it to the end. The opinion of others may sometimes sway you from your true passions, but this shall ask you to sharpen your claws and defend your dreams. If you feel unsure, this shell is your message to stand firm by your position. Do not be swayed. From a different perspective, the spikes may be viewed as a crown rather than claws. In this instance, the spider conch may represent responsibility, autonomy, and self-sovereignty. Perhaps it is time for you to take charge of your path, which means being prepared to accept the consequences for your decisions rather than looking to place blame on others. Carve out the life you want by implementing your own boundaries and being protective in pursuing your ambitions. This one represents protection, maturity, defense, as well as autonomy. Next on my list is the spindle shell. It's elegant and beautiful. The spindle shell has an elongated point that resembles that of the drop spindle, a tool used for spinning fibers into thread. In mythology, the spindle is often associated with the Fates, or the Morai, the Greek goddess who spun, measured and cut the threads of life in order to control destiny. The spindle shape of this shell may symbolize fate or our lack of control over the way things play out. If something is meant to be, then it shall be. Destiny is difficult to avoid, so perhaps it is time to accept the path that calls to you and trust that things will work out as they are intended to. The spindle shell may also signify a need to be creative, okay? Whether that is finding a creative solution to a problem or indulging in a creative activity for pleasure. The spindle is a slow-moving shell, so perhaps you may interpret its appearance as patience or the need to give careful thought to a situation before making a decision. It may indicate that you should wait for the opportune moment before taking action and serve as a reminder to maintain your composure in difficult situations so that you act with grace and decorum. This shell represents faith, creativity, patience, as well as composure. Next on my list is the tower shell. Okay, so it is officially known as the turritella day, right? This shell also goes by the names agur, turret, or screw shell. Okay, long, thin, and tapering into a spiraling point. The tower shell resembles the horn of the mythical unicorn. The height of the tower allows it to dig into the ocean bed, screwing its lithe body into the floor with ease. The ergonomic point of the shell provides speed and swift movement. It represents decisive action and forward momentum. The tower asks us to point our intention towards our goals and continually edge closer. Transitions are not necessarily instantaneous. Rather, they are a gradual process that happens over time. The key is to always be taking steps, no matter how small, along your chosen path. The first step is to decide to take a path. Then you may progress upon it at your own pace. Celebrate each milestone and be proud of how far you have come. The tower is your sign to keep going and never to dismiss your achievements as being too small or insignificant. The appearance of the tower in a reading may be a call to action. Perhaps you have been stagnant long enough, and now is the time to put plans into motion in order to make the changes you want to see. The phallic shape of this particular shell means that it can also be used to represent the masculine principle of virility, right, and physical strength. This one represents action, progression, decisiveness, and virility. And the last one on my list is the whelk. The whelk is often confused with the conch because they bear physical similarities. Two key differences are that the conch are herbivores that hail from tropical waters, whereas the whelk prefers colder waters and it's carnivorous, right? It can sometimes even be cannibalistic. The spiraling appearance of the whelk lends it an association with growth and development. This could be an increase in material prosperity or expansion on a soul level. The whelk reminds us to relentlessly pursue our dreams and empowers us to be proactive in manifesting our desires. We are the key to making change, and the whelk is a reminder that we possess all of the power we need inside of ourselves already. We just need to find the bravery to believe in ourselves. Conversely, the whelk may signify a need to consider the impact of our behavior. Pursuit of success is one thing, but be mindful that success isn't achieved through manipulating or taking advantage of others. This one is representing growth, success, empowerment, as well as change. I really am hoping you guys are enjoying these videos and are actually learning something. Again, I am Sami, and this is Sacred Magick 101. My next video dealing with Ocean Magick, we will be going over storm magic. Okay, so as always, love and be loved, and bless others and be blessed. Have a great week.